Just a news flash at the top of this video. Acoustics are probably going to sound a little bit the same, and you might get some additional cuts that you may not otherwise because we have a dog in here, and he is not exactly cooperative at times. So, do bear with us.
Welcome to the podcast, Moose.
Welcome to the podcast, The Mooser. That's his wrestler name. That's what I'm officially calling him.
Perfect.
What we're going to be doing today, first of all, before I get into that, welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. If you haven't already subscribed, go right ahead and subscribe to the Lopes Goes Last podcast channel. We cover baseball, football, basketball, wrestling. We cover all sorts of stuff here on the channel. Dan also helps me cover quite a bit of it as well, so excited to have him back. Today we're going to be talking about Clash at the Castle in Glasgow, Scotland. That's the worst accent ever. But that's where it is. Well, I haven't heard yours, to be fair.
Scottish.
Oh, wow, yeah, wow, that's cool.
You see?
Oh, boy. Okay, no, but it's in Glasgow, Scotland. Not this upcoming Saturday, or is it this upcoming Saturday? It is this upcoming Saturday.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought it was a week from now. It's not.
I feel like we've had a PLE like every other week, but since WrestleMania, but we kind of have.
Yeah, it does feel like that. So we're going to be talking about all of the matches that have been currently announced. And at this point, I'm pretty sure this is the final card. I'd be shocked if there was another match added to the card.
And all title matches. I think this is the first card in a long, long time that we've had all title matches on the card.
Yeah, and that's certainly a great thing. Happy to see the women's tag titles actually getting a pay-per-view match. I think they had one not too long ago. But
usually we go like every 6 months. They finally go on there, and we're like, "Hey, we have a story here. We have
amazing
two of the most prominent women in WWE women's wrestling roster." And it's like, well, of course we have to have a match.
For sure, yeah, and that's exactly the formula. You got to have two women that the audience cares about, and have them elevate the championships, which is of course what they're doing right now. But we're going to talk about not only that match, we're going to talk about all other four, I believe. I think it's 5 total matches on the card, and we're just going to go through who we think is going to win and why. And so this is probably going to be a little bit shorter of a video than what we normally do. At least that's what we're planning, but we said that before, and it hasn't worked. So we'll see if we can stick to it this time. But we are going to start with what we both believe is going to actually open the show. Normally I'm not somebody who particularly enjoys WWE Championship matches opening the show. I actually find it to be mildly disrespectful. But in a case like this, where the other match is featuring a hometown hero, I think this is a perfect opportunity.
And the other main title.
Right, and the other main title, exactly, main eventing. I think we both think that the I Quit match between Cody Rhodes, the WWE Champion, and the phenomenal and not retired AJ Styles will be probably, at least.
Can you superimpose the gloves over my hands?
I will try.
Okay.
I don't know if I can.
I'm kidding.
It'll just say gloves over it. It'll just gloves right over the hands.
That works. just put his initials on there.
There you go. I'll do my best. But yeah. So, again, Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles, we both think is going to be opening the show. I'm not the biggest fan of the I Quit match stipulation. I actually find it to be quite boring at times. There's only been a couple that I've particularly enjoyed over the period of time that it has been, that it has kind of been a match that worked. I think really the only 2 matches that I can recall for I Quit me particularly enjoying was John Cena versus Randy Orton and The Rock versus Mankind. Or Mick Foley, whoever he was at the time. But yeah, so I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I mean, I'll keep it simple. I don't really, I'm not putting much thought into this. Cody's retaining, in my opinion. I think that while there is an argument to be made, perhaps you could switch the championship here, kind of a nice shock thing. I think that we're going to get enough shock value at this pay-per-view regardless. So for me, I think Cody's retaining. I think you got too many stories to tell after this that he needs the belt for.
Yeah, I think you have a lot of stories to tell, but none of them are around right now. So that's what's interesting to me. On the I Quit part, I wish this was more of like a last man standing or a Iron Man match. Honestly, I think those stipulations are a little bit better than an I Quit with the same idea. But I think he just was like, I think he was just kind of going to the I Quit just because AJ Styles almost quit last week. And I'm going to go the complete opposite. I think Styles is going to win. I don't think it's going to be clean. I think we're going to get, and I'm going to have a kind of a running theme through probably most of these matches outside of maybe the tag match, that we're going to have interference. That's my kind of running theme through this card is interference. I think the Good Brothers will get involved here. We finally saw them and Styles reunite 2 weeks ago on SmackDown. And it's like, so maybe we finally get them together after all this time where it's like the Good Brothers were brought in, then Styles got hurt. Then he came back, and then he didn't really do anything with them, and now they're all kind of united again. Maybe it's the same thing again. It's like we could see another on-screen appearance of all three of them, and then the Good Brothers disappear for another 4 months. I don't know. I'm not sure why the Good Brothers came back if they're going to be booked like the way they are, but that's another story for another time if we don't want to get into it tonight.
That honestly is a whole nother podcast episode with the amount of times that they've signed with the company and just be used the exact same way and just not really valued the way that they should be valued.
Fodder just not appearing
every single time, and they keep coaxing them. Hey, come back! It's gonna be different this time. Hey, you're gonna be tag champs. Hey, you're gonna be prominent, and then they just immediately go to NXT.
They've helped. They've had some NXT tag title matches. I believe they were just on Battleground if I remember correctly. But yeah, it's kind of like, so I'm kind of hoping. My thought is, let's actually see them reunited. Let's actually use them. I'm taking Styles. I don't think he wins clean. I think Good Brothers interfere somehow. If it's not a quit match, it's basically a DQ match. I think we talked about this at a previous point. The only thing that I'm afraid of, I think you'd agree with this, is like every 2 minutes, like someone's at a hold or someone's down. It's like, do you quit? Do you quit? Like, let them actually have a good slug it out. Let's see them brawl around the arena. I think this would be a great opening match just to get the card going. And again, it's like, we have all title matches, so it's like, which one do you put first? So I think this would be a good hot start to the PLE. International crowd has been great this year. Even actually dating back to Backlash last year in Puerto Rico, like international crowds are just loving WWE right now. They're loving the product. And I think you're getting behind it too, because it's like we don't get to get PLEs too often. We're getting them more internationally, but it's again international as a whole. So it's like it's just such an attraction to where it's like, we're almost used to seeing Raw come through Greenville a couple times a year. Raw or SmackDown, Raw or SmackDown come through Greenville. It's like, oh yeah, of course, cool, and it's great. We love it and we cheer for it and stuff. But it's like, yeah, cool. We don't get that. Oh, we haven't had this year in 5 months. We haven't had this year. We haven't had this year in 5 years. So I think I think this would be a great match to get the crowd started. I could see not hot shotting the title styles like this just because Cody just won off WrestleMania, but we're also we are 2 months past WrestleMania. But my reasoning here is I think you have to continue this feud somehow, and you don't necessarily have to have a title change to continue the feud. Excuse me. Don't necessarily have to have a title change to continue a feud to make it, but it's like if you get Cody 2 matches and he wins both matches over Styles, it's kind of like, well, what's the reasoning for a third if he gets him to say I quit? Yeah. So that's why I'm going with Styles, and I think right back at Money in the Bank, you can put it right back on Rhodes. Have the rubber match between these two. Steel cage or not steel cage, Hell in a Cell or something like that, and make it even more brutal, or TLC match or something like that. What have you? You could come up with another grander stipulation, more brutal stipulation. Thumbtacks, maybe. Kind of joking there. But I think just to kind of retain, because we look at the SmackDown roster, there's not a lot of heels that are primed for a spot against Cody Rhodes right now. It's just, I just don't see it. It's like, yeah, we have Santos, yeah, we have Solo, yeah, we have this and that and stuff, but I just don't see another heel saying, wow, we're great, and as Moose makes an appearance.
Sorry. Come on, Moose.
I just don't think there's good heels that are main event ready for AJ Styles right now, or for Cody Rhodes right now. It's like, Carmelo kind of had his shot, and everything like that, but, you know, it's, as, you know, Mooser, I guess, wants a shot at the title too. But yeah, I just don't think there's a great heel outside of Styles right now that you're building up, and I think, you know, I mean, yeah, there's Solo there, and I can see them going solo. If they, you know, to me, if they went solo, I mean, to me, that's saying Roman's probably not coming back for another 6 months. You know, I think he'll be back sooner than that, but maybe he won't. So, I mean, you know, Solo's not a bad option. You know, you obviously have a lot of storyline reasons there.
Yeah.
He has been mentioned by Heyman. But yeah, so I feel, you know, a quick title change and a quick title change back to Cody for, you know, Money in the Bank could just benefit the roster as a whole as you kind of build up. You know, SmackDown didn't exactly draft a lot of heels. They were, you know, a lot of the heels are mid-carders, or just taking up other storylines right now. You know, I mean, you could turn Randy, you could turn KO, and we got probably those storylines coming. I hope we get a Randy storyline sooner than later. I'm sure we will. You know, and we could talk about that at a different time too, and like how you could even get there, because you know, you could do that a lot of different ways, considering the history between those two.
Sure.
But I think, you know, unless you want to put Carmelo in that position again, but then I think that just buries him really quickly again. You know, I don't think you can, you know, the draft night match I think was perfect, because it's like you show the fans, like, this is who Carmelo Hayes is if you haven't seen NXT. You know, and we had seen him a little bit, I guess, with the U.S. title tournament, but it's like, that was much more of a showcase, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe Bobby Lashley. We haven't seen Bobby Lashley, I feel, since WrestleMania. I don't know if he's hurt or just, you know, maybe they're splitting them, the Street Profits, because the Street Profits are all of a sudden taken with Kevin Owens back at the last PLE. Was that Backlash?
I don't think it was.
Yeah, I guess that was Backlash.
Was it at a PLE? I thought it was just on a SmackDown.
Well, no, yeah, maybe.
Well, maybe it was the SmackDown before the PLE.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah. But, I mean, we've seen Street Profits with Kevin Owens lately, so I don't know if Lashley's hurt or if they're splitting them. Or if Lashley's just off TV for now, and if he is, I mean, you could bring him back as a heel, and that's the next little, I don't want to say filler, but that's the next, you know, next man up for as a heel. Cause, I mean, Lashley's been in that spotlight before. I think you could argue that very easily with him. You know, so I mean, but it's just, you know, outside of Solo, turning Randy, turning KO, you know, you're not going to go to Santos. I know there's been rumors out there. We talked about that before we recorded. You know, you're not going to go to Santos. You're not going to go to Andrade yet. I don't even know if he's a face or a heel right now as it is.
I think he's supposed to be a face.
I think so. But, you know, it's just, you know, there's just not a lot of options. So that's why I'm going with Styles.
All right. Next up on the card, at least in our humble opinion, is going to be the women's tag. Triple threat match between... I don't know. Do Bianca and Jade have a name, like a tag team name?
I don't think so. Do we want to give them one?
I really don't.
Okay.
I feel like no matter what comes out here is not going to go well, if that's what.
Let's just say two of the most prominent women in WWE right now.
Let's call them the two women power trip.
Yeah,
two woman power trip.
Sure,
two
power
man
trip.
Power
Let's
trip.
call them power trip.
Sure, the power trip. Why not?
There we go.
The power trip is a terrible name, but the power trip. We're all of those.
We have a worse one on this list right here.
Yeah, versus Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler versus the worst of the names, which is the unholy. Unholy Union? Yeah, it was like Unholy Alliance, Unholy Trinity, Unholy Union. Yuck.
Alba Fry and Isla Dawn.
Yeah.
I know they had a...
How's Fire and Dawn not there? Like, that's a way better name. Right? That's their last name.
It's right there. But they have a different name in NXT, didn't they?
I don't remember.
Oh.
I can't.
While you're yapping, I'll look it up.
Probably. But anyway... again, another one pretty straightforward for me. Champs retain. Love. I don't know how if I've ever really gone into how much I love Shayna Baszler and how much she means to me. The first ever NXT show I ever went to in person. I don't remember if she was the main event or if she was just. I don't think she was the main event. I think she was the semi-main event. But she was. I mean, she just she hadn't really been on. NXT TV much. She had kind of just started being on NXT TV for a little while. It was right before she was going to start a feud with Ember Moon when Ember Moon was NXT Women's Champion. Fun little known fact, that was in Knoxville, Tennessee, and it was also the first time I had seen Bianca Belair. She took on Ember Moon for the NXT Women's Championship that day, and for the record, she was the gimmick at the time for her was undefeated. Like that was like she said that every week. Mm-hmm. She kept winning on TV. Well, she lost the match that I watched that day. Obviously, it was just a live event. You're not going to change the belt in a live event. So every time she go undefeated, I'm like, no, you're not. I saw you lose. There's like a whole, like a little funny.
Anyway. That's one of those things where like they toe the line of like, yeah, it's live events, but it's not canon to the stories we're telling on on TV. But yeah,
right. But anyway, point being. Shayna Baszler, you just knew she was going to be a star that day. I mean, she walked out there. She had the most awesome women's entrance music you could ever have. Her old NXT theme and the theme that she had when she first got to the main roster. You just cannot be beaten. Just awesome. And obviously, I don't think she's been used the way that she needs to be used on the main roster. Now, whether that's a combination of the bad booking, which there has been, and what seems to be a kind of either give up or just complacency and happy for where she's at, because I just don't...
Yeah, there's a lot of stopping and starting with her. Yeah. It's, because, I mean, she was brought in... she was a part of WWE before Ronda was, right?
Yes.
So, yes. I mean...
Long before.
That's what I thought. So, but it's...
2018 was when I first saw her.
So, it was always interesting when you get Ronda involved, and then it's like, they did try to pair them up a little bit right at the end of Ronda's run. And it's kind of like, because they both have the MMA background, I think it lends itself kind of cool to WWE in some ways. Especially since, you have Becky and Alexa Bliss, whenever she comes back, they both have that arm bar and stuff too. So, I mean, like, there's MMA holds that a lot of the women use, so I think that, is nice. But yeah, it's been a lot of stopping and starting with her. I mean, I feel like she's one of the better wrestlers on the women's side, on the women's roster. She's not bad at what she does, and she's got she's perfect heel personality for wrestling and stuff. So, I mean, she always seems to get inserted in a lot of these triple threat, four-way, fatal four-way type matches and stuff in one way or another. And I guess, and this is, and she's, I guess, the way that Zoe Stark kind of remain relevant too, because we haven't really seen much of Zoe. I look at the women's division. I'm kind of hoping that Bianca and Jade kind of keep the titles for a while, just to kind of bring up some of those women to kind of be like, oh yeah, she's around. Oh yeah, she's around.
Yeah.
Like the Piper Niven match. In a way, that's kind of like out of left field, but at the same time, it's nice to see someone like her get a title match.
Sure.
And Chelsea Green. We'll get into that more later too. Has some interesting theories there. I think. I wouldn't be surprised if you have too, but it's one of those. So I'm hoping like. I feel like the women's division is finally getting attention again. I feel like it hasn't for a while. Triple H has kind of got his main stories going on, and now hopefully him and his creative team kind of start focusing on the mid-card more, which I feel we are with the U.S. title, especially the IC title. Tag teams a little bit more now. We saw Miz and Truth on Raw again last night for the first couple weeks with a match. Hopefully it's the women's division turn. It's the women's tag titles turn, because someone wins them, and then we don't see them defended for 6 months. Someone wins them, and then they retain, or they switch, and then someone gets injured, so they switch them in 3 months. But that someone gets injured, but they still have them until you figure out what to do. So hopefully we're finally getting to that point of again, it's on a PLE 2 months after they were on WrestleMania, which has got to be a record.
Right.
But yeah, and what are your thoughts on Isla Dawn and Alba Fry being kind of the hometown representatives in this match?
Yeah, it seems a bit rushed, in my opinion. But at the same time, I get it. They're from there, right? I think maybe not actually from Scotland, but maybe it's from one of the neighboring countries.
One of them is at least from Scotland,
right? Yeah. So I get it. I think it's I think it makes sense in that regard. You want to kind of freshen it up. I mean, obviously you did the whole thing with Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae in Australia because Indy's from Australia, and like, you know, that was kind of haphazardly thrown together too, and it was fine. So I get it. I don't mind it, and I'm glad it's a triple threat as well, because I think if you just threw Alba Fire and Isla Dawn in there with Jade and Bianca by themselves, like that would not go well.
Right. And why you don't want more of an established, quote-unquote established tag team in Shayna and Zoe to take the pin. I feel like they're kind of there to take the pin so you're not pinning the hometown team. I don't know.
Sure, maybe. I don't know about that aspect, but no, I think it's fine. But I don't think it really... I think it's just there for the crowd, and I get it. Like, you know, you want to help cater to the live crowd as well, because who knows when WWE will ever go back to Glasgow. It may not be for a long, long time, because part of me almost feels like they are doing this strictly because they have Drew on their roster.
Maybe.
So it's...
I mean, well, they just did Clash at the Castle 2 years ago in Wales. So I mean, you know, maybe they'll keep hopping around the United Kingdom.
Yeah, maybe.
Clash at the Castle.
Maybe. But either way, again, this is pretty simple. Obviously, the champs retain here. I don't think there's much argument to be made in any other direction here.
No, I don't think there is either. I'm with you on the champs retaining there. Bianca and Jade are two of the strongest, two of the best wrestlers. Bianca's definitely one of the best wrestlers in women's wrestling WWE right now, and I think Jade will be up there in a short matter of time in that respect. I do think it is interesting too that Isla Dawn, Alba Fire, they were actually the last holders of the NXT Women's Tag Champions that was unified with this championship belt almost a year ago.
Yep.
So I think it's kind of fitting that they actually get to be in a match for the titles. In that respect too, it's like they were defeated. And I think Shayna was in the match. It was Ronda and Shayna that defeated those two.
Yeah.
So you got So I think that's kind of interesting. Just a fun little nugget there. But yeah, I think it'll be a good match. I think it'll be interesting to see how Jade's come along as a wrestler. I know she's had a couple matches since Mania. I feel like she's still kind of polishing her in-ring stuff. But I can only assume that she just can get better with time, because I mean, they're obviously keeping the titles on them right now. So I feel like if she wasn't doing a good job and wasn't improving, I feel like we would see those titles get off of those two pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm happy that she's in a tag team with Bianca right now. It gives a natural kind of segue down the road for there to be a rivalry. Yep. Regardless of who turns on who.
Right.
I don't know if you're going to have Jade turn on Bianca and keep Bianca face, or if you're going to, I would say finally, as if we've been clamoring it for years, but, kind of do a big refresh on the character of Bianca. Right. Obviously she's been the same exact character for the last 3 to 4, maybe even longer years. So maybe it could use a bit of a refresh to kind of shuffle the card a little bit. So who knows what's going to happen with that, but also it allows kind of, the champs to not be on TV as much, so Bianca gets a bit of a break after, carrying the company, the women's division, on her back for several years, really.
Yeah.
And also it allows Jade to kind of go back and forth from the road for SmackDown to Tampa in the Performance Center and just continue to get better, continue to get reps, and not have to carry matches by herself in singles matches all the time, where she's got somebody that's amazing in Bianca Belair to fall back on. Yeah. At all times. So I love the pairing when it first started. I love it now. I think that they are going to continue to be women's tag champs for every single second until one of them turns on the other.
Right. And hopefully that's at least a reign through at least a Rumble next year, or even Mania next year. I think it's going to be a good long reign for these two.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so third match on the card, we're thinking IC title.
Yeah, it seems to fit nice right in the middle.
Yeah, I believe so too. Intercontinental Championship match. In a way, the rubber match, the third match, But really only the second match because, the second one was really a triple threat, so I don't know if I consider that. But
Right.
Chad Gable's third opportunity at Sami Zayn's Intercontinental Championship, one-on-one. And what a story that they're telling. It's a bit... and I think even, I don't know if they had said it prior to yesterday, as of time of recording on Raw, but I know they said it yesterday. Stockholm Syndrome kind of storyline where Otis is more or less, he hates Chad Gable and who he's become, and he hates what Chad Gable stands for, but yet he continues to help him.
Right.
He's almost in love with the guy that he hates, which is exactly what Stockholm Syndrome is. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's kind of the syndrome where you get kidnapped by somebody and you're so alone and isolated and scared that you wind up falling in love with the person who kidnapped you. Not to say that Chad Gable kidnapped Otis, of course he hasn't, but it's kind of like, it feels like Otis is in prison, as is the rest of Alpha Academy, where they feel trapped, they feel like they don't know what to do, their leader has gone berserk-ski, and they don't really know what to do with that. So it's a very interesting story. I'm intrigued to see where it goes. I can very easily see Chad Gable winning the belt here. In fact, I actually think that's probably where they should go with it. But something just tells me, like, maybe it's just my PTSD of all the times that I wish Chad would have won the belt and he never did, or wish that he would have gotten the push when he never did, or wish that he would have been the guy that they picked to be Kurt Angle's son in that weird angle that they did, and instead they went with Jason Jordan, which was literally his tag team partner that made no sense. Anyway, so maybe it's just all that PTSD coming to the surface, where I'm just like, no matter what happens, Chad will never get his moment. But I just have a feeling he's not gonna win again. I don't want that to happen. I actually want Chad to win. I love Sami more than most. Sami Zayn means a ton to me as a wrestler and as a fan. But Sami got his moment at WrestleMania. We all loved it. We all cried. And it was a big... well, except for my boss at work. She hates Sami Zayn. But other than her, everybody cried. Well, she cried just for hatred purposes. But... we'll see what happens, but I just... Sami got his moment. I think Chad deserves his moment, and I think that the story with him and the rest of Alpha Academy would be a lot more intriguing moving forward if Chad actually was successful. But maybe this is where you do the Otis finally breaks free and attacks Chad and costs him the belt for real, and then you move into that rivalry. That I don't know, but like I just feel like they're gonna screw Chad again, and I'm not gonna be very happy about it. But that's what I'm going with.
So you're picking Sami.
I am picking. Yeah, I'm picking Sami. I'm rooting for Chad. Yeah,
gotcha. I'm rooting for Otis here.
There you go. Why not?
I honestly, I mean, everybody was like so just mystified by his Money in the Bank win a couple years ago. I think that was the pandemic year actually. It was 20 or 21. I forget which year it was that he won Money in the Bank. And then he ended up I forget how he lost the briefcase, but I know he lost it somehow.
He lost it in a match to The Miz. He just put it on the line in a match.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Because we were coming off of Otis being in the storyline with Mandy, Mandy at the time. Dolph Ziggler was involved in that, and that was I thought that was a fun little storyline that we had in the pandemic. That when we didn't have crowds, I thought it was actually pretty good between them and stuff. So I always kind of liked Otis. My wife always thinks actually Otis is really funny when he pops up on the screen because he doesn't look like your prototypical wrestler.
Right.
He moves well. He's got the worm and stuff. And I was like, he's got a little fun set. I don't know if I go as far as even a Stockholm Syndrome with the Otis Chad situation. I get why some are saying that. I know Cole and Pat McAfee were kind of saying that over and over last night too. But I think it's more of a confidence thing because you look at him and he's like he feels you can tell he agrees with what Sami's saying. It's like he's a break free, and right after the beatdown of Sami a little bit, like Chad goes up to him, and he was that close to just whamming on Chad, but I just don't think he's confident in that he can stand alone. I almost kind of wish this would be a fun little spot to, I don't think they would bring him back, but bring back his old tag partner.
Tucky.
Yeah, because I mean, I thought they were an entertaining tag team.
They sure were.
And then again, like
nothing beats when they went down to NXT and just started eating steak in the middle of the ring. It's like these are my people.
Yes, I mean, and they were good. Again, got two wrestlers like you're like they're a tag team, they're wrestling, but they moved well. Kind of like the Viking Raiders, like they were more athletic than they appeared and stuff. And
sure.
So Otis has kind of had a weird spot in my heart. I like him, and so I'm kind of rooting for him here. I am picking Chad to win here, but I think Otis is gonna kind of do what he did on Raw, and to where he's like, I know I should turn, but he's not gonna turn quite yet. I don't think he's gonna turn quite yet on Chad. I think it's gonna be of a more of. There's a behind the scenes conversation. Chad's like, stick with me, Otis. I know you're mad at me. Stick with me, but if you help me win this, if you help me win the title, I'll make sure that you and I have a match at Money in the Bank, or I'll make sure, or more promise, like I'll make sure you get the briefcase again, like, and you don't have to give that briefcase up again, but we'll help you win the briefcase at Money in the Bank or something. I feel like he's gonna manipulate Otis for a little bit longer, and I feel like then. So I think Otis is going to be more of, wanting to help Chad. Then he's like, no, I should really help Sammy. And I think he's going to try to do something to Sammy, but it actually ends up costing Chad more than it does, or it actually ends up costing Sammy more than helping Sammy. And that's just going to offer that little opportunity for Chad just to get like a roll up win, very heelish win, roll up win, to where you can kind of keep Sammy in that IC title picture a little bit. But I'm picking Chad here.
Okay.
It's, I feel like this story has so many options. I feel too. It's like, does Otis turn? When does he turn? Does he turn and demand a match? I don't think that's Otis's character to turn and demand a match. I'm very intrigued. It's nice to see Alpha Academy kind of getting a little more of a spotlight again. At least between Chad and Otis. Maxine and Tozawa are just still just there, but at least we're seeing them on screen. And there's the wrinkle of the Creed brothers, does Otis side with Sammy this weekend, and then the Creed brothers come out and neutralize him, and that gets Chad the championship too. So I think you could drop interference, I think, in one way or another, a couple different ways. I don't know if the Creed brothers rumor is true, but yeah, I think Chad gets the title, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if that comes right back off of him either at Money in the Bank or even at SummerSlam. It's a short reign, and maybe put it back in Sammy. Maybe finally get Big Bronson the title. Put on notice for 2-week period to lose it at Raw or something.
Sure.
It's like it's I think I said this last time when we did a wrestling pod was let's hot shot some of these titles a little bit. The IC one I think is a fine one to hot shot a little bit more than maybe the other titles. It's prestigious and stuff, but when you got a lot of people involved in a storyline and you see them kind of jump around with it a little bit, I think it works. You got to do the story right and everything. And I feel like we're in that point of WWE where it's not predictable anymore. I think that's why it's very interesting looking at this card. It's like, yeah, you could take the challenger for XYZ. You could take the champion for XYZ and, almost all these matches. And then it's like, oh, they're actually going to do what we thought, but they're going to do it in a completely way that we didn't even think they were going to go. And I love that, too. And I think this story is perfectly set for that, to where one of the two of them can win, or a count out, when nobody really wins, but retained by Sammy, or a lot of different things. But I think at the end of the day, Otis is trying to help Sammy, but doesn't quite work in Sammy's favor, and Chad just gets that heelish victory, and we see where the storyline goes from there.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man. Like I said, I think Chad should win. I think that would make the most sense. But something just tells me that it's not going to happen. I think maybe, because now that you mention it, that was one of the things that I thought through was the Creed brothers. Perhaps it's Otis costs Gable the championship accidentally again. And on Raw the next night, he's just so angry. He's like, "You're all fired. I've got new guys." And then the Creeds just beat the crap out of Tozawa and Otis. They just come out and they side with Chad just straight away. And now you've got a wrestling super team.
Yes.
Those matches with those three, give me those 6-man tags every single week.
Give me a triple superplex, superplex right away, on some kind of random.
Oh yeah. Give me those every day of the week. I'll take it.
Fun little fact there.
Yeah, so, who knows? But no, I don't blame you at all. I think if I had to put my life on it, I would probably pick Chad Gable to win. But I'm gonna say Sammy just because I just got this weird feeling that it's not gonna happen. But regardless, we'll see. Next up, so you got Bayley versus Piper Niven.
Yeah.
Don't know personally much about this story, so I don't know if they've really done a whole lot to set this thing up, or if it's just something that I haven't been paying the most attention to. But obviously, we know why Piper's getting this match. It's because she's from there.
Right.
So that's why we're getting the match. A lot of interesting rumors out there that they could have her win the title in front of her home crowd, and that could be the hometown pop of the night, or at least one of them, depending on your perspective on things.
Right.
We'll see, but for me personally, I think we all bought into that last year with Drew, or 2 years ago with Drew, whatever that was, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's like, they gotta do it now. This is the best time for Roman to lose the championship. It's gonna make the stuff. Well, guess what? It wasn't the best time for him to lose the belt, because this year was the best time for him to lose the belt. We just couldn't see it yet because we didn't know what was gonna happen.
We didn't know what was coming, really.
Right. So we don't know. So I tend to not really buy into, random superstar gets inserted here. This is the best time for this person to lose the belt because this person's in front of their hometown. If we believed in all of that, everybody who had a title match in their hometown would always win, and that's just not how wrestling works. Sometimes, obviously, that's the right move.
Right.
But, I mean, we've seen it so many times. We've seen it with Sammy in Montreal, Drew in front of his home crowd.
Yep.
Whoever, obviously, any of the championship matches in Australia outside of Rhea, who was already the champion. That doesn't really count. So, we've seen it a lot. Hometown people do not win, so I'm not personally buying into it very much. Listen, love Piper Niven. I'm happy she's getting a championship match. She deserves it. I don't think she's had a one-on-one championship match since Royal Rumble 20... Oh, was it 19 or 20? 2020, I think it was. I don't remember, but there was a match that she had against Becky Lynch. I know that.
Okay.
I think it was Becky Lynch. I'm pretty sure it was Becky Lynch. But it was at a Royal Rumble pay-per-view, and she was still called Doudrop at the time.
That's right.
It was not great.
Right.
So it's been a long time. That's the point that I'm trying to make. So happy she's getting it, but I just don't have her winning here. I think Bayley's going to hold it for a little while longer because, I mean, also think about it. People want Piper Niven to win right now in front of her hometown. I get it, but are you going to really do Piper Niven versus Nia Jax at SummerSlam?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
listen.
This might sound a bit insulting, but we say it for the boys all the time. Big beefy boys going at it sounds like a lot of fun. Big beefy girls going at it in this juncture. Again, I know it sounds horrible coming out of my mouth right now, but I mean, we say it for the guys all the time, so it's fair. But if that's what you're going for, I guess. But I mean, is anybody really gonna buy into that story? Is anybody going to really... Is that a Big Four pay-per-view women's championship match? I don't think so, but Bayley versus Nia Jax is. So to me, I think you got to stick to it. Maybe a hot shot the belt. She wins it in her hometown. She loses it the next week. I don't know, but for me, I just keep it... Don't do crazy things. Just keep it simple and have Bayley retain.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Bayley retains. I think she was kind of inserted into this picture right now. One, just because of a somewhat lack of heel threats right now for Bayley. I think it was kind of to, plant the idea that maybe she could win it to face Nia, since Nia's Queen of the Ring. I think that's kind of where it kind of developed, was Nia came out the week after SmackDown after King and Queen of the Ring after she won, and and she was like calling out Bayley, and then Chelsea Green, spoke up and brought up Piper Niven, and and I think that's kind of where that started. So obviously not a quick build, from that PLE to this PLE, kind of what we were talking about with Cody, just kind of like the lack of build isn't always bad, but it's there. I'm glad we do have an opponent for Bayley. I don't think she hasn't defended on a PLE since she won it at Mania.
I don't believe so.
So yeah, and again, hometown, you can't argue with that. I think it's nice to have someone representing the hometown in this match. But yeah, no, I can't see anything reasonable. The only thing I could really see in the storyline was like somehow getting Chelsea Green into the picture more for the title match. I think you talked about this. Other outlets have talked about this too. Is like she seems to be a very high possibility for her winning the women's Money in the Bank match. As talked about. So this kid kind of entrenched that a little bit more. If she's around the title picture, making it known, and maybe after the match or the next SmackDown, she's like, yeah, I'm declaring for a women's Money in the Bank match or whatever. And then and you can do a lot of things with them. They are a tag team, but I feel like we could kind of see them get kind of mini pushes here and there. And having someone like Piper to help Candice, or not Candice, Chelsea. If Chelsea were to win Money in the Bank, having someone like Piper could be like, she can always hide behind her, kind of thing. That enforcer type, in a sense. So, I feel like, this will be, I think, getting them to the spotlight a little more for other storylines down the road. And I think this whole PLE is kind of that, in a sense of, you can launch these storylines into completely different directions where they are right now for some of these wrestlers, or you can continue down another, the same path, but just like, just keep building layers, with something like, AJ or the other match we'll talk about, or especially the IC title. It's like you can build so many layers with some of these matches, and I think that's what happens with this match is, Bayley retains, good match, but that's, we're not going to see Piper and Chelsea discarded quickly. I think, we'll see them around the main title picture for at least the foreseeable future in one fashion or another.
Yeah, I agree. I think obviously Chelsea is my definitive pick to win Women's Money in the Bank. I think other than Tiffany Stratton, there's nobody even in the stratosphere of Chelsea Green in terms of who I think would make a great Women's Money in the Bank winner this year. To me, there's no other option.
Yeah.
And that's just my opinion. I've had that opinion for months and months and months. Like, since she debuted and didn't win Women's Money in the Bank last year, I don't even think was in it. Like, you sit there and go, oh, well, Chelsea Green's going to win it next year. Like her, the Carmellas of the world.
I was going to say, she reminds me of Carmella in that, when she won it 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, in years.
That shrill, just like, no.
And the reason why is it's so tempting when you have so many outstanding women's wrestlers in your company all at once to just, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and right. You could pick any of them, and they're going to be hot shots at the top, and it's fine. But I almost would rather see people like that when you have all babyface champions, really. Obviously, Liv now is not, but previously, Rhea was a heel, but everybody loved Mommy. So, I almost would rather see when you have dominant women's champions that everyone loves and that are fantastic workers, to have someone like a Carmella, to have someone like, and not to say Tiffany Stratton is in the same world of athleticism as Carmella because she's way, way better. But, or like a Chelsea Green that there's no reason why they should be in the same ring together and Chelsea should have any chance of winning anything.
Right.
But that's the story.
She fits the Money in the Bank persona so well.
To a T. To a T. And again, there's years where you've got to have Big E or Liv Morgan or somebody that's super popular, Daniel Bryan. I mean, he's the easiest one to pick out of like workhorse of the company. Everybody loves him. He's Money in the Bank. CM Punk, like you've got to have those guys that are popular that are going to take that next step. But we realistically had that last year with Money in the Bank, and it was great. Yep. Obviously, we know what happened with Damian Priest, and it wasn't Liv Morgan last year, was it? Am I out of my mind? Who won last year for the women's?
Wasn't it Io?
Yeah, it was Io. Yeah, there you go. So like, you had it last year. You had your two workhorse people that everybody really liked.
Yep.
Now it could have been LA Knight, but you know that's a podcast for another day. All in itself is are we wasting LA Knight? But no. I think this year. You know, maybe for the men, you can have like you know somebody that's you know not a super shrill heel. Excuse me.
What?
I don't know what I know what he said.
It's okay.
Yeah, no, I know what you said. I mean, I wouldn't mind that either, but. You know, maybe, you know, I would actually prefer, like, Finn. Like, somebody like Finn, you know, with Damian having the belt. I think that'd be a nice little story to tell, but, oh, God, back to Chelsea. I mean, Chelsea would just, oh, my God, and she would drive everybody bananas with that briefcase. It'd be great.
To this match, it's like, you know, while Bayley retained, I think, you know, this is a good opportunity for WWE to say, look who we have with these two more stars that we're going to build up. Again, you know, a great way for Triple H to kind of showcase more of the women's roster. We know the Charlottes, we know the Beckys. We don't have Becky right now for a little while. Probably won't for a good while. As you know, and that's fine. She deserves some good time off.
Go be a mom, Becky.
You know, we haven't had Charlotte. Bianca's in a tag. You know, Damage Control is kind of doing whatever, but they're kind of finally getting their own storylines too. So I feel like this is a good opportunity to elevate someone like Piper. And this is gonna, especially Chelsea, you know, to where you can be like, hey, these two are here to be contenders, not just be made fun of, not just to be, you know, inserted into a random match just to be defeated. It's like, you know, we can tell certain stories with them, you know, and you know, Money in the Bank is just a great way to do it. So, while I'm with you with Bayley retaining, I think you know we get a lot of forward story with both Chelsea and Piper going forward.
Yeah, and check this out, right? Let's do a little fantasy booking Lope style right here, okay? So check this out. Bayley retains, unless I'm out of my mind, which it could be. Money in the Bank is before SummerSlam, correct?
Money in the Bank is another 3 weeks.
Perfect. So it's before SummerSlam.
4th of July weekend.
Right. So again. Perfect. That's because if it wasn't, then this whole thing would just go haywire and would not be a thing. But that's what I thought. So Money in the Bank in 3 weeks. So Bayley retains on Saturday. 3 weeks. Chelsea Green wins Money in the Bank, or Miss Money in the Bank. At SummerSlam, it's Nia Jax versus Bayley. Nia Jax, I'm gonna vomit in my mouth. But wins the championship from Bayley. Beats Bayley at SummerSlam. Right?
Yeah.
So Bayley held it for a good 6 months or a good 4 or 5 months. That's fine.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with that. Okay.
Yep.
Nia Jax is celebrating her big championship coronation that she hasn't had since WrestleMania like 5 or 6 years ago or whatever the heck it was now. And then you hear I'm a hot mess. And normally when Money in the Bank winners come out, the champion goes, crap. Not now. But Nia's just going to be laughing. Like, really? Like, are you stupid? But that's where Piper Niven attacks Nia, who's not paying attention because she's too busy laughing at Chelsea. Like, really? Like, on a scale from 1 to stupid, you're at 9,000. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then Piper attacks Nia, and she's one of the few women that can actually physically keep up with Nia.
Yep.
I don't know if she can lift her up or anything. Maybe she can, maybe she can't. I don't know. But she can overpower Nia and just attack her and then basically allow Chelsea to win the belt. She's now got a bodyguard in Piper Niven where every time somebody... And let's look at the SmackDown roster right now. Jade, Bianca, Charlotte, assuming when she comes back, unless she's on Raw and I missed it. She might be on Raw, I don't remember. But basically, Jade, Bianca, Naomi, like all of these babyface women, still Bayley, right? So like all these women, and then Nia Jax just being like, I hate you, I want the belt kind of thing. Like, Chelsea's just gonna be like, ah! Like, she's just gonna basically be like a screaming little girl with the championship and just have Piper fight all of her battles for her.
Yeah.
Like, that's good. Oh, it's gonna be such a good story. And when Charlotte comes back and she gets in Chelsea's face, then it's like, oh, it's over. Like, you're dead. Like, that's it. Like, you get the best women's wrestler, in my opinion, ever, coming back to take back her belt. Like, this is gonna be rough for you. Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, that's the way I have it. So point being, Bayley retains.
Yeah,
that's the first step.
For what it's worth, I don't think they drafted anybody that was injured because I think technically Rollins is not technically on either brand because he's hurt. So
sure.
But I mean, Charlotte was last on SmackDown, and since Andrade is there, I'd assume that Sure.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, Andrade is on SmackDown now as well, so that makes sense. Well, all right, man. Main event time.
Main event. Let's go.
Drew McIntyre is re-upping his quest to regain the championship that he lost at WrestleMania. It was exactly how I had predicted it in my WrestleMania previous booking from Royal Rumble to WrestleMania, except obviously mine was Plan A, which was before CM Punk, unfortunately, tore his tricep. I believe what would have happened at WrestleMania would have been Punk would have won the belt, Drew would have cost Punk the belt, and Damian would have cashed in. Or even just Damian just would have cashed in on CM Punk, and that would have been it. But regardless, it happened to Drew. That's what I assumed would happen, and that is what happened. But now Drew is ready for his rematch in front of his technically he's from Ayr, Scotland. He's not from Glasgow, but close enough. And so in front of really his home country now.
Yeah.
I know we said his home country last time. He's not from Wales. They're two different places, guys. Right. They're two different cultures, two different accents.
But it's still United Kingdom, so.
No, it is.
You can But yeah.
But this time it really is. It's Scotland. It's in front of his home crowd. Obviously. Just like last year, 2 years ago, whatever it was, the last Clash at the Castle, some people are saying Drew's going to win the whole kit and caboodle in front of his home crowd and send the hometown happy. Some people are not. And I am personally, I know it's going to be a boring booking here for me, but I am in the camp that he is not. I think, unfortunately for Drew, they're going to run it back the same way they did it 2 years ago. Now, obviously not Solo, costing him, why?
Right.
But this time it's going to be CM Punk again. And because, and especially to me, they announced that he's cleared. He's good to go. He's good to wrestle, CM Punk. You cannot possibly convince me that Drew versus Punk is not happening at either Money in the Bank or SummerSlam. Or both. I mean, you just can't convince me.
Right.
And the way to get to that is CM Punk costs Drew this time really in front of his home country, and now Drew is just apoplectically angry. I mean, you can't console him.
The psychopath goes to insane.
No, it's like that. There's a video from American Dad where Steve goes bananas. And he just rips off all his clothes and starts flopping on the ground like a fish and jumps out a window and screams, "Ah, this is what you want, I'm gonna go bananas!" That's gonna be Drew. He's just gonna go bananas completely, and then you're gonna have a blood feud that's gonna carry you for the next couple of months on Raw.
Yeah.
And I am all here for it. Now, maybe you could make the argument of Drew wins and Punk gets first dibs. I think that's a bit egotistical of the CM Punk character to do at this point. I know that CM Punk is an egotistical character.
I was going to say,
but at the same time, this current iteration of CM Punk
fit him right now. Yeah.
is it doesn't fit him to just be like, oh well, I want the belt now. It doesn't.
It's not CM Punk 10 years ago.
Right, exactly. And so for me, I think he's going to take care of business with Drew and then go after the belt. Because it's not about the championship at this point for CM Punk. It's about, I don't like Drew McIntyre and he doesn't like me, so we're going to beat up each other until one of us quits. And that's where I think you can have That's where I thought you could have like an I Quit match or something brutal
That's
or a Hell in a Cell or something like that. I think that's where you should go. I think SummerSlam is going to be Drew versus Punk and Hell in a Cell. Beautiful. I'd love that. But anyway, the way to start, at least for me, the way to start that is Punk costing Drew here. It's gonna be there. All the crowd's gonna be so mad. Oh, it's gonna be awesome. But you know what?
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
I think that's the way you gotta
go. Boo, but then at the same time, they'll be cheering. They'll be singing CM Punk song.
True. Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. They love Drew out there. I don't know if they'll be singing it, but I think we'll all in America be so happy. Like oh yes, give me CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre again. To put into perspective for you guys, as things are falling off my table here, I had, and this is crazy because it's actually going to work out that way, just obviously not at all the way I had booked it. I had CM Punk's first match back against Drew McIntyre at Elimination Chamber right before WrestleMania to be the number one contender to face Seth. Obviously, didn't go the way any of us wanted because he blew out his tricep after I had already booked that, so it is what it is. But regardless, CM Punk versus Drew is his technical first match televised outside of the Royal Rumble, his first one-on-one singles match back.
Yep.
So cool. I'm good with that. Obviously, his first match back in our booking was him in the Royal Rumble. But for me, I love the idea of Punk versus Drew either at Money in the Bank or at SummerSlam. You know, maybe if you prolong it, you have CM Punk try to win his third Money in the Bank, and Drew costs him that to get back at him, and now you've got I don't know. Maybe you try that. I have no idea. Point being, Drew is unsuccessful.
They're going to be thorns in the side for each other.
Yep.
And they've been so good at foils for each other, especially the way that Punk did unfortunately get hurt, and that Rollins was inserted into the Bloodline feud with Rhodes. So I mean, it's like they picked it up so well and so natural. Like it makes me wonder if like that was if obviously they changed certain points, but if that was kind of the plan all along to not give us Punk and Rollins right away, but to give us Punk and Drew, it's just they'd have drawn up a little bit different once Punk got hurt. Just the way they're just so fire with each other. And it's just wonderful. I mean, some of the I'd honestly say, it's up there with best feud of the year, if it isn't the best feud of the year.
Sure, and amazingly, they haven't touched.
Yeah, and
they have not touched.
That's in a match they haven't touched. Yeah.
Well, sure, but they obviously have been a little bit of physicality at WrestleMania.
But still, I mean, that just shows how well both are at just getting on the mic. They're both amazing on the mic. Like,
they are.
Drew is he's always been good. I feel like he's gone from being good to like, whoa, we're listening to what he said. Like he was really good, I think, when he was building that match with Reigns 2 years ago at Clash and stuff, and that was really good. And I mean, obviously him and Gunther and Sheamus, like there's honestly a fun little bit with him and Sheamus last night, on Raw, to where it was, just like, I'm gonna win this, you can go win Money in the Bank. I'm very much paraphrasing right now, but as they're like, I'm gonna win, Drew's gonna win this title, Sheamus gonna win the Money in the Bank, and they're gonna just have banger after banger after banger for matches and stuff, and it's just, I mean, who doesn't want that? So and because I'm one that wants those matches, with Punk, with Sheamus, I have Drew winning this. On Raw, they had a match between Drew and Finn to say Judgment Day is banned from the ring. I have a way around that, and my way around that is Carlito randomly, but
he's not in Judgment Day.
He's technically not in Judgment Day.
Neither is Liv Morgan. Yeah.
You could even lose Liv there, but I think I think Punk interfering again, like that Mania, is almost a little too much on the nose. So my interference is Carlito, and he just he comes in to try to help Drew, or try to help Priest, but it doesn't work. And it just fires up Drew even more, and he just hits like his fourth Claymore of the night on Priest finally. I feel like it's going to be a good 20-25 minute match between these two, because I mean they're both just great wrestlers in the ring between Priest and Drew. So Carlito comes out of a moment to help, and we get a little prolonged match, but, McIntyre just finally gets that opening, and he just, he gets it. So my interference is Carlito, not Punk. And that's the way around the Judgment Day ban, and I see Drew having that title. Just to, not that the Drew and Punk need stakes more than it already is, but just to give that little extra stakes to that match, to their series of matches. Last time we did this too, it's like, let's move this title, World Heavyweight Championship, around a few times. Let's have Drew have it for 2 or 3 months. Put it on Punk for a month. Put it back on Drew or Priest again. Even have that. Cause to me, we're seeing the end of the Judgment Day too here. I think this is the final nail in the coffin for Judgment Day, and then we get the Money in the Bank or SummerSlam, and we get Priest and Balor. Those two. And again, you can argue having the title for a match between those two. It's like Balor's like, I've helped you retain that and stuff, and I've helped you that, but I think the belt just fits better in the picture with Drew than Punk than it does for the eventual Priest and Finn Balor match. So I'm going to go with Drew winning the match here.
Okay. Yeah. I understand where you're coming from for sure. The only thing that gives me pause is Gunther won King of the Ring. Mm-hmm. And whoever you have coming out of Money in the Bank / Clash of the Castle / any other PLE that's before SummerSlam is going to have to face Gunther. That's just the way it's going to have to go. And is going to have to lose to Gunther. Like, that, there's no, I don't think there's any way around Gunther winning that belt at SummerSlam. Mm-hmm. That's the plan, that's what they're doing, and that's what they should do. If that's the choice you've made, you had to win King of the Ring, he's got to win. I mean, it would destroy that character if he somehow lost to any of the people that we're talking about right now.
100% agree.
So, for me, if Drew wins this match, that means one of two things. One, he's either retaining the championship up until SummerSlam, which would be the most likely scenario if you were to win this match. And then we're getting Gunther versus Drew again at SummerSlam, which we've already seen that match 7 times. Again, it was
for a different title.
It's fine, but at the same time, Drew hasn't beaten Gunther, and he's not beating him then. So, to me, there's not much intrigue because Drew has not beaten Gunther, and he's not going to there. So it's like, well, I didn't have to watch this match to know what was going to happen. Gunther wins, lol. That's how it goes. Or Drew's going to lose the belt before SummerSlam to either CM Punk or lose it back to Priest. And I don't want Drew to have a 15-minute title reign again. That's just the way I'm looking at it. So for me, I think it just makes the most sense for Damian to retain it. Because even if you were to have, say, the first match of Drew's reign be against Punk at Money in the Bank, and even if you had Punk win, as much as I love Punk, does anybody want to take the risk of watching CM Punk have to fight Gunther? A guy that will just beat you to death. I love CM Punk. The guy tore his tricep taking a DDT. He's had 3 major injuries the last 3 years. 2 of them torn triceps. I'm not saying that he's fragile. I don't think he is, but, I wouldn't have him fight Brock Lesnar right now. I wouldn't have him fight Sheamus right now. There's just guys that I would not have CM Punk fight because, 1, he doesn't need to, and 2, because it's just... He just may not be able to handle a 25-minute World Heavyweight Championship match with Gunther, which is what that match needs. So for me, it just makes the most sense because you're going to either hurt Drew if he loses the belt there, really badly, you're going to hurt that character. Or you can keep it on Priest. If he loses to Gunther, if that character loses to Gunther, to me, there's no shame in that.
Right? No,
he's had a 5-month or whatever long title reign. That would at that point, it'd be around 5 months, 4 or 5 months, 4 or 5 month title reign. He loses it to Gunther. Gunther is just an animal. Okay, I get it. Maybe do a rematch. He loses the rematch. Damian Priest and Finn Balor both go into Money in the Bank. Oh, actually, Finn would have won Money in the Bank at that point. In my opinion, I think Finn should win Money in the Bank now that I've kind of thought about it and had more time. I originally picked Solo. Now I've kind of had more time to think about it. I like Finn to win. First of all, I've been watching a lot of like demon videos the last couple of weeks, like the not that kind of demon, but like Finn Balor the demon, like his old stuff from NXT.
I knew what you meant.
And I'm just like, man, I forgot that before Keith Lee actually arrived in WWE, and he was just on the indies, and Finn was here. Finn was my guy. Finn was the guy I hooked my wagon to. I loved him in NXT.
Yep.
I mean, everything about him was like what I wanted in wrestling, and it's a shame how everything went. Think about this. He has been on the main roster since 2016. That's 8 years outside of the 2 years he spent in between there in NXT. He won the World Championship in his third match. The Universal Championship in his third match on the main roster. He held it for 24 hours, hurt his shoulder, and has never held a world title again.
Yeah.
8 years. He has toiled. He has had matches. He's had world title matches against Brock Lesnar. He's had world title matches against Seth Rollins. They have teased it.
Reigns killed the demon.
Reigns killed the demon. Well, actually, Edge killed the demon, really. There was literally just no reason for the demon to lose that match at all, and they still had him lose, and it's just like, okay, well, that's dead. But anyway, I would like to see Finn in that spot, and I think the story at that point could be Finn wins Money in the Bank. Damian still has the belt in July. There's a bit of like a backstage segment where it's like, hey, man, you don't plan on cashing that thing in on me, do you? And he's like, dude, of course not. Like, I'm going to go cash in on Cody on SmackDown. And you can have him kind of like tease it on SmackDown and have him go to those shows and have Judgment Day show up and follow him in there. And now Cody's like, oh, God, these guys again. I just spent 9 months dealing with these pukes and I moved to SmackDown and now they're here again.
Back again.
But then Damian loses the belt to Gunther. And that's when Finn goes, hey, you've done your job. You've led this faction. You've led us. Let me do it. Now it's my time. Let me do what you did last year. I'll do it. I'll do what you did. And that's where jealousy issues start to creep in. Maybe Finn wins the belt. Maybe Damian costs him the belt. Maybe you break up the Judgment Day before then. I don't know, but I think that there's a lot of intrigue there. But to me, it starts with Damian retaining here, and Drew at this point won't give a rat's behind about that belt anymore. He will just want CM Punk to die.
I get that, but I think at the same time you could use Money in the Bank to help Drew's case too. Like if he has a title, put Money in the Bank. If you had Money in the Bank on, say, Jey Uso, and that's probably not the best example, but I'm trying to think of someone that could have the belt for a brief period to face Gunther, and still give us a quality match. It's like, you could almost have Jey, cash it in, right before SummerSlam, and he's like, now I get my shot at Gunther to finally, and it's like, I have my chance to finally put the rest with Gunther. He can't, he loses title, but I feel like if you and then you could still do your Drew and CM Punk at SummerSlam. You wouldn't really hurt Drew's credibility as a title holder because he lost it so quick to the Money in the Bank who wanted it. You could even have the cash in that night at Money in the Bank. Jey wins, Jey takes the title. He gets his big crowning moment that people want to have too. So I definitely, the easier storylines are definitely there if Priest retains. I have no problem with that. I wouldn't be surprised by that if Priest retains, just because Punk. And the storylines you get that we can finally get to there. But at the same time, it's like I feel like there are other ways you can still get to, again, like you said, Gunther's winning that title at SummerSlam. And I think that's the fun part of the story right now. It's like, because we have Jey in that picture still, because he was the first to declare for Money in the Bank. Because we have Priest, we have Balor really kind of still there, in a different way. Punk and Drew, it's like, you can go so many different directions. to kind of sacrifice to Gunther in a way. But I feel like you could give a Money in the Bank winner, take a title away because they want, to face Gunther for that. They want to prove themselves against Gunther at SummerSlam. So it's like, Money in the Bank winner. I can see a men's Money in the Bank winner cashing in early. And I don't feel like that hurts Drew because, I think in an easy fashion you do what Priest did and just cash in at a bad moment. Drew just jumped in the back, or whatever, jumped after a match and stuff like that. Judgment Day is just like, we're tired of this guy, so there's more complicated ways around it to get to SummerSlam, to do in between Clash and SummerSlam with that belt. But I think you're still fine if you put it on Drew.
Okay. Yeah, because for me, I'd have other plans for Jay. I think finally we're gonna get a singles belt on Jay. I think when inevitably Chad Gable will win the IC belt, whether it's this Saturday or whether it's in a match after, whatever it is, I think he will eventually win that Intercontinental Championship, and then I think Jay will be the one that takes it from him. And that's going to be amazing. It's going to be a wonderful moment for him, of course. At least in my opinion, I think that's what's going to happen. And the fun part for both of us is I know that we wanted to talk about the kind of Braun Breaker stuff that's been happening on Raw and everything, so I'll just skip right to it. I think the guy that takes that belt off of Jay is Braun Breaker. But here's the thing. Here's what's fun. So you got that. So eventually Braun Breaker wins that championship. I think Gunther wins the belt at SummerSlam, and that means, ladies and gentlemen, you have 1 year and 7 months to build Gunther versus Ilya Dragunov at WrestleMania 42. Not 41, 42 for the World Heavyweight Championship. You got a year and a half to do it.
Yep.
Ilya takes that belt, and it's just a brilliant display, because I think, I'll get into this more when we talk about, the angle, but I think at this point, Ilya is in absolutely no position to be fighting for any championship at Bash at Berlin in, what's that, October, November?
End of August.
September. And end of August? I didn't realize it was that quick. Yeah, he definitely isn't in any position to fight for a belt at that point. He's just been fodder for Braun Breaker, which I have my own opinions about.
But I feel and I get that, and we've talked about that, to where it's, I feel like at least Ilya and Braun had a better, longer match yesterday, where where Braun was like, oh, maybe he is a little more human than we originally thought, and where he's still just a menace, still so quick. I just love seeing him in the ring.
He's an animal.
He is, and I think that's I feel like they're building both Ilya and Braun to the main WWE crowd right now as one of, especially since, and I want to go back and watch these matches, because this is some stuff I was reading. I was like, yeah, they've had, they did have some classic matches. I need to go back and watch between Braun and Ilya at NXT. But I feel like they're building for the main crowd to finally to see Ilya can just take it. He doesn't matter how hurt he is with his ribs or anything. He's just going to get up there and he's going to keep going until he literally can't move. And Braun was able to almost make that happen until Ricochet came along, which I'll touch on in a second too. But yeah, Braun, I feel like they're building those two in a way where you got to separate them soon, or else it is going to become what I think you're really afraid of, which I'm kind of a little afraid of too, is, where is Ilya just the punching bag for Braun and no one else? And I know Ricochet is kind of in that spot too. To where he's kind of helping out Ilya, had his back and stuff, and he did last night. Braun, I think they're trying to build Braun to be a monster. They're trying to, Ilya to show how his endurance, to where I hope eventually we almost kind of get a Braun Strowman versus Braun Breaker, as either some televised matches or maybe a PLE match.
He's been involved with the Judgment Day very heavily, by the way, and he's not even somebody that we've mentioned around the Damian Priest Heavyweight Championship match kind of thing.
And I mean, he's been in title pictures too before. So and I think that's what's so great. It's like so many storylines are being interwoven in and out of each other. Within the women's division, within Judgment Day. Judgment Day is such a such an storyline in itself, but it's lent itself to interweaving LWO storylines, Carlito, Braun Strowman, and it's it's like one of those, like, we can kind of predict some, matches and, what's going to end as a match, but it's like the storyline to get to that point and beyond that point is great. So I mean, but yeah, with Braun Breaker, and just, love just seeing him kind of still be this master, but it's like, ooh, maybe there is a chink in his armor. You just got to outlast him, but who's going to outlast this guy right now on the roster outside of Iliad and Ricochet? And, well, I don't know if we'll ever see Ricochet ever again in WWE, which is unfortunate. Because I've always liked Ricochet.
When he signed, oh god, I was so excited just because I've been watching him for years. Weirdly, I discovered Ricochet in a match that he had, I think it was in 2012 against Keith Lee, because I was I've said it a bunch of times, I'm a big fan of Keith Lee. I followed Keith Lee. He was one of the guys that I followed all over the world. He had a match against Ricochet, and Ricochet actually won this match, which I was like, who is this guy? Like, he's just bouncing all. I've never seen a guy move like that. And then, of course, now I'm looking more into Ricochet, and I'm trying to find, and then I find Ricochet versus Will Ospreay, and it's just bananas, dude. Like, just nothing but flips and gymnastics for 40 minutes, and you're like, I can't think. This is like, it's like washing a washing machine, just spinning and spinning, and you're just like, what? Look at all this. It was insanity. And so when he signed, I was so excited to see what he could do. And his first match was that 5-star 6-man ladder match to crown the first ever North American champion. And he did, he backflipped off of ladders and just all this amazing stuff that, like, only he can do. And obviously he went on to have a very successful NXT career from there. And I was so excited to see what he could do in WWE, but it was one of those things where you sit there and you think, is Vince gonna really like this guy? Is it gonna make sense? And I think what really sealed his fate for me, and this is years and years and years ago, so it's been prolonged, is Triple H did an interview because Ricochet had been struggling. Where somebody asked him, why do guys like Ricochet sometimes seem to struggle when they get called up to the main roster or whatever the case may be, when they just obvious they can do things that nobody else can do. And Triple H said, well, unfortunately for Ricochet, he makes everything look way too easy. And sometimes, in wrestling, it's not just all about moves. It's about psychology. It's about selling. It's about telling a story. And Ricochet, for his whole life, basically just told a story with his athleticism and just did all these flips and amazing moves. And they are amazing. There's no one on the planet that can do what Ricochet can do. And I'm not saying otherwise. But it is a bit weird when you've been wrestling for 25 minutes and someone's been attacking your ribcage for that entire time and you've been screaming on the ground for the whole time, and then suddenly you're doing a full sprint, doing a backflip over a thing that nobody else can do. It doesn't make story sense, and that's true.
Right. And
so, to me, when Triple H said that, it was the guy, in case you didn't know, that's in charge of the whole dang thing now, that kind of sealed his fate for me. Where, like, that is something that he struggled with, and he's gotten better at it. Yeah. But at the same time, like, it's not really believable. You either sell all the time and you take all of Ricochet's offense away, or he does all of his offense anyway, and you're like, this is kind of weird. Like, he's been dying for the last 20 minutes, and now all of a sudden he's doing 78 backflips in a row, and he did a 450 when he couldn't breathe earlier. Like, that seems like that's not how this works. So, like, I get it from there, and it's a shame. I love Ricochet, but you know what? I'll say this. I have had the privilege now, and it's something that I wanted so bad when I went to that first NXT show that I mentioned earlier in the podcast. He had just signed. He had not yet been televised or debuted. I think he debuted the next night on NXT. And I was really desperately hoping I'd catch him at a live event, because I'd wanted to see Ricochet wrestle in person so badly for years, and I didn't get a chance that day. He was on the West Coast loop at that point, so we were on Knoxville, so he wasn't there. But luckily, I've been to SmackDown, I've been to Raw, and I've gotten to see Ricochet wrestle both shows.
Nice.
Which is awesome because he wasn't really featured a lot of the times on sometimes he is and sometimes he won't be featured for 10 weeks in a row. But I happened to catch it was Ricochet versus Baron Corbin and then Ricochet versus Dom. And amazingly, he won both those matches. So I got to see him win both his matches too. Nice. So I'm getting a little emotional because I am so grateful that I got a chance to see him wrestle in person, as obviously you did as well because you went to that same Raw show as I did. But maybe you went to that SmackDown. I just didn't know you then. I'm so privileged to have been able to watch that, and also I'm privileged because he's one of the reasons why my wife likes wrestling now. He was one of the first guys that I introduced her to, and I'm very grateful that I got the chance to see him in WWE as long as I have, and I hope that he gets to go to AEW and he gets to fight Will Ospreay right away. I really do. I hope that he gets everything that he wants out of life. I hope he doesn't take Samantha with him, though. She can stay. She's never to go anywhere for the rest of her life. We all love her. She's not allowed to leave. No. But, obviously, joking aside, I'm very grateful for Ricochet. I'm very grateful that he got the chance to be a WWE superstar for as long as he did. Obviously, goes without saying, wish he could have done more. Yeah. There's been a lot of missteps with him. But at the end of the day, he was an Intercontinental Champion. He was a United States Champion. He was a North American Champion. Like, he had success.
Yeah.
And so I'm very, very happy that I got the chance to watch him when I did, but I'll let you take the floor.
I mean, Ricochet was great. He was probably one of the first guys that I really latched on to when I got back into watching wrestling just because of his moves, of his skill set. And it was just fun just to watch him again and seeing that live like we did was like, wow. Like, on TV is one thing, but in person it's like,
yeah, in person he's a pinball.
Yeah, and it's great. And I think it was, kind of a fitting end in the storyline that he's in to kind of go out the way he did, unfortunately. But I think it was a well-off goodbye. I mean, part of me wants to be swerved on this and see him in 2 weeks again back on Raw, and him and Eliad team up against Braun, handicap match, or they beat him or whatever. But I don't think it's gonna happen. I think it's unfortunate too because part of me wonders too. It's like with so many contracts being up as the rumor right now, and with so many guys wanting to be retained, was it just a matter of like, we can't quite retain you, man, because we're trying to retain everybody else, or and so that's what I've kind of wanted in the back of my head. It's like, is it if his contract would have been up 6 months from now or next summer, would we have been seeing him for another 3 or 4 years? I don't know. But I feel like he'll fit it. If you were to go to AEW, which seems, great with the Will Ospreay link, I think he'd do well there. Hopefully he wouldn't get buried quick again.
I doubt it. I doubt in that. Although I will say I said that about a few guys in AEW, and they just keep on stockpiling all these ex-WWE guys, and they don't use them. I mean, the fact that Malachi Black is over there doing a whole lot of nothing makes you want to scream from the top of my lungs.
Like, I feel like you could... didn't Malachi and Ricochet have a little bit of a storyline for a little bit?
Oh, yeah. They were a tag team.
Yeah.
They were a tag team for a while. They should have won that freaking tag title match at WrestleMania, by the way. I'm still sticking to that, but that's just me.
Yeah, no. So hopefully they get involved in a storyline there once you kind of get a couple of Ospreay matches off and stuff.
That'd be fun.
He's one of those guys where it's kind of like, outside of maybe Daniel Bryan, and a couple others, leaving WWE and going elsewhere, especially AEW. Where I'm like, oh man, that's gonna be missed. Like Edge was kind of one of those like, okay, that makes sense. And I wish Ricochet well in his endeavors with whatever company he goes to as well. But it's one of those where it's just kind of like a little bit different because it's like it's like he could have been used in so many more things, and
sure could have.
And at least like the last 6-9 months he's been more prominent somehow on TV, and again, like you said, you sing his accolades. I'm pretty sure he's 2-time Intercontinental Champion, but I'm not positive on that. But again, he had success. He's won, he won secondary titles. He was in pictures. He was in Fatal 4-Ways for number 1 contenderships for a lot of titles and stuff like that. So, I mean, he was definitely used in spots that not a lot of people get an opportunity to.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I wish him all the best. I hope that he gets everything he wants out of wherever he goes, whether it's being a top guy or whether it's just making a lot of money, whether it's both. Yep. I don't know, but if he does go to AEW, plenty of guys. You got your Darby Allins, you've got your Jack Perrys, you've got your Kazuchika Okadas, your Ospreys, your Danielsons, your Omegas. A lot of
high flyers more than WWE has. I feel a lot more that fit his style that he could just have banger after banger after banger.
Yep, exactly. Well, I suppose the only thing that I do regret with Ricochet's run is I don't know what WWE were thinking when they put him in a match with Brock. And not only that, but I don't know what they were thinking with having the match go how the match went when he had the match with Brock, which was Brock beat him in like 40 seconds.
I've forgotten about that.
Yeah, I wish I forgot about it because I wish it never happened. But that's the only one where you're like, all right, why? Like, what was the point of you feeding him to Brock? Like, that made no sense. Like, he was so popular, and it just was. Yeah, it's
Vince didn't like guys being popular that he didn't want to be popular.
Yeah, but I mean, like, how can you look at Ricochet and how can you not fall in love with the guy?
I know, but I mean, that was just Vince. If someone got popular that he didn't want to be popular, he was like, nope, who can I put out there to squash him? Hey, Brock, what you doing? Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's probably what it was.
Yeah. Unfortunately. And there were some times where I think that I know we're going off on a tangent here that's unnecessary, but I think that there were some times really where they tried to do that and Brock wouldn't let the company do that. Like I will swear up and down that when Vince put Finn versus Brock on a Royal Rumble, that he just wanted. He was like, yeah, all right, you're gonna go out there 11 F5s. Finn's gonna do nothing, and then you're gonna go home. And Brock had too much respect for Finn to do that to him, and they ended up having a really, really fun. It wasn't a long match or anything, but it was a fun match where Brock sold his tail off for Finn.
Yeah,
and
he doesn't do often.
No, he does not. He only does that for guys that he truly respects, like your Danielsons, your AJ Styles, your Finn Balor's. Like he only does that for guys that he truly respects. Or obviously when it's his time to lose in matches. But he made Finn look great, and I truly believe that Vince probably just wanted Finn to go out there and get killed. But Brock was like, no, that's not, like, you're not doing that to Finn. He brilliant. But anyway, if this is Ricochet's last time we're seeing him in WWE, I'm very grateful for what he gave my family. I mean, I know it seems like ridiculous, but again, you gotta understand, my wife did not care about wrestling. She did not like wrestling at all. She made fun of me for watching it. She would not watch it with me. She did not care. And then she saw Ricochet, and that's what turned her. And now I have somebody in my house that I can watch wrestling with, and I can raise my kids to watch wrestling without their mom completely disapproving, because I'm not even like, that's conversations that we had. It's like, no, your kids are not watching wrestling. They can watch it when they're teenagers. We're not doing it. But now, like, all right, maybe we'll start when they're 7 or 8. Like, let's just get a little compromise there. But the point is, like, I'm grateful for Ricochet and all the memories that he's given me, and hopefully all of us fans feel the same way. Hopefully there's no anger or frustration for him leaving out there. Hopefully there's a lot of understanding. And again, whether it's in AEW, I personally would rather like to see him in TNA.
I was saying, TNA could be fun for him too. TNA, yeah.
And so, wherever he goes, I just want
And if he went to TNA, we could technically see him back on WWE television.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. So, and then maybe in that case, we don't see him in TNA, but we'll see what happens. But that's going to do it for us this week, guys. What do you guys think of our predictions? Obviously, quite a bit of difference here on who's going to win. So, who do you think is going to have the better card, or at least who's going to get more correct? What do you guys think is going to happen? How would you book it? But that's going to be it. If you haven't subscribed yet and you're still here, thank you so very much. We appreciate you so much. But that's going to do it. Thank you so very much. We'll see you all next time.